Hi everyone, and welcome to this week's EBC video. This week's EBC video is brought to you by the letter L. We're in Lakeville at Steve Michaud Park, and we're here thinking about Luke. It's 13:31 through 35. Now, last week we were also at this park looking over in that direction at a water tower, thinking about the fact that Jesus had been standing over the top of Jerusalem at the pinnacle of the temple with the devil, and the devil saying to Jesus, throw yourself off and demonstrate just how powerful God is and how important you are by having the angels come and catch you. And now this week, instead of that grand vision of Jerusalem from above on the top of the temple, we're going to be thinking about Jerusalem in a completely different way. Jesus has been curing and healing, and as he's doing those things, some Pharisees come to him. And now usually the Pharisees are up to no good, right? But these Pharisees actually have come with a warning. They're there to tell Jesus, Herod wants to kill you. And if somebody said to me, people are after you, well, I'd go away right away. And that's what the Pharisees suggest, go away. But Jesus says, look, I've got work to do. I'm still here to cure. I'm still here to teach. And I'm going to do that for 2 more days. And on the 3rd day, then I'll leave. Now, what happens is the Pharisees have suggested that you run away. And he said, my work is more important. And as we know, eventually, part of Jesus' work is actually going to be to offer himself up on the cross in Jerusalem. But then something else happens, and it's our next L word. It's the word lament, because this passage is now called the lament over Jerusalem, because Jesus thinks about Jerusalem and says, Jerusalem, the prophets come and you kill them. People come who are sent to you from God and you stone them. You reject our efforts to bring you into God's arms. And I want to think about that word lament from a couple of different perspectives, right? First, I want to think about lament just from the standpoint of maybe that earthly lament that we sometimes have. And that's what this scene is for here, because when my kids were little, we would take them to what we affectionately at the time called Castle Park. And it wasn't even this same Castle Park, but they would come, and when they were small, it seemed like the most grandiose thing ever. And then, as they got a little bigger, well, the castle got a little smaller, and it maybe wasn't quite as great, until they get even bigger, and now it's just not even fun anymore. And you lose that sense of childlike innocence. And I want to think about that from Jesus' standpoint for just a moment, that when Jesus was a child, he and his parents would come to Jerusalem every year, and Jerusalem was the center of Jesus' understanding of religion and Jewish tradition at the time. And now Jesus is seeing a Jerusalem where it's not doing what God wants it to do. And so some of that lament is simply that earthly, it's not as great as I thought it was. But there's also a godly lament here. And in order to think about that for a moment, I want to introduce another notion of lament. There's a book in the Old Testament called Lamentations. And Lamentations actually written about 5 poems in which the author of those poems is sad and expressing sorrow about the destruction of Jerusalem back in 586 BC by the Babylonians. And in that instance, the poet believes that God has brought about that destruction and that the people are sad about that destruction. And now the roles are reversed. Now the people are bringing about the destruction of Jerusalem, and it's God, it's Jesus who is sad about the fact that that's happening. But I do want to focus on this in one more aspect of the word lament, because you'll notice that Jesus has said that, time and time again, Jerusalem has not done what they're supposed to do. They've rejected the people who have been sent to help save it. The word is still lament. It's not anger, it's not judgment, it's not God's giving up, it's Jesus is sorry for the fact that Jerusalem hasn't yet done what God wants Jerusalem to do. And that brings us to our last L word. The word is love. Because what we see in this passage is Jesus saying, I still want my people to come to me. And in fact, he says that he will be coming back to Jerusalem when the people are prepared to say that blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. And we know that's going to happen on Palm Sunday, and we're not there yet. But Jesus also knows that even after the people do say, "Blessed is he, Jesus, who comes in the name of the Lord," even so, they're still going to put him to death on a cross. And we're still going to have those moments where we do well and those moments where we don't do well at all. And yet Jesus persists in that love, even though we don't always do what it is that he wants us to do. So everyone, think about the word lament this week, both in terms of the things that you wish were different for you, because that's okay too, but think about the word lament from the standpoint that God is not giving up on you. He's sad, sorry when you aren't doing the things that you want to do, but then he's also prepared and still trying to bring you back in and put his arms around you. Everyone, have a great week.